Bill. Appreciate that. And I'd also add that I focus also on retail in addition to the Firstline worker space. There's a lot of overlap there, so hopefully we've got some retailers joining this call or watching on the web. We're going to jump right in. We're only going to do a few slides here to set things up, and then most of the time we will be in the product demo. So we released our Firstline features in Teams on January 11th, right before the National Retail Federation show in New York City. And that was an exciting event for us for sure, because now when we think about digital transformation with Microsoft Teams, you have a common communications and collaboration platform that can work for all of your workers, from the boardroom to your first line. And when we talk about first-line workers, we're thinking of these store associates, maybe people who work in the warehouses. They tend to be or certainly mobile primary. They may have the app on their personal phone when they're not at work. They may have it on their personal phone at work if you're a BYOD environment, or maybe using shared devices at work. All of these scenarios, we want Teams to be accessible to them so that they can have this common comms and collab platform. So making this a reality is really, really critical, because our customers are constantly trying to lower the complexity of their IT infrastructure and how they manage their employees. And I'm often talking to retailers who are looking at products specifically for the store workers, and that's because there's really no communication platform that will work for everyone. And we're really trying to change the game here with Microsoft Teams, so that everyone can use the same tool. Because as soon as you introduce a hop into another platform infrastructure tool, it creates friction inside of the organization. So when we talk about our initial core set of first-line worker technologies, these are our 4 core pillars. Communication is certainly at the foundation of everything we do within Microsoft Teams. And this is an area that in and of itself is very complex. And so I always joke about how that communication pillar should be viewed as a stack of a bunch of phones, because you're communicating through calling, video calling, one-on-one chatting, group chatting, meetings, all sorts of ways that you're communicating to employees, corporate announcements and pushing down, broadcast, video, meetings. There's just so much that happens in the communication space. So getting that in one place that a worker can turn to for all of their needs is really important. And along with that is the content that we share throughout the experience within Teams. And I really like the way that this happens. We just recently had an event here at Microsoft with dozens and dozens of chief learning officers from the Fortune 500, really showing how Teams and the content management work together to deliver an innovative learning experience. And so now being able to extend that into this first-line space is really important. And there's, we all understand that in this space, there's lots of turnover. So being able to onboard an employee quickly, give them what they need, allow them to be productive as fast as possible, is a really important aspect of the first-line worker space. And then inside of Microsoft Teams, we have an app store. And our app store concept is unique because it does allow you to create within that app store your private app store focused on your company and the apps that your company has created or published into the app store. So this access to other capabilities, whether it was created by a third-party ISV or a line of business application that you've created yourself, bringing that all into the experience really allows Teams to be that hub for teamwork for all employees. And then last, and certainly a core workload for the Firstline space, is scheduling. The vast majority of these workers do work in shifts. And the fact that they're working in shifts is so central to their life, and it really reflects in the way that their job is done as well, and the way the teams are managed. So, when people are working or not working, or on break or on lunch, you have your employees who are not working at all that day. How you communicate to these different communities within your workforce is all driven off of that schedule. And now that we can have this knowledge of the schedule within teams, it really helps us to tune the entire experience. And we'll kind of go through that as we go into the demo. And in fact, I'm going to even skip that slide and go straight into demo. And we are going to start actually right here in the admin console of Teams. And the reason I want to start here, in a couple of days, we will be rolling out app policies to all of the tenants worldwide. This is a very powerful capability that we're adding to Teams. I tell customers, when I meet with them at executive briefings, this is, in my opinion, the most important feature we've created in Teams since we launched. So let me explain why I say that. I showed you the slide where we had the boardroom to the Firstline worker, and you've got a lot of diversity of the type of workers you have in your company. And we want only one Teams app in the various app stores. So with that single Teams app, we need to be able to create different experiences for different communities of workers. And so today, prior to app policies coming out, Teams is relatively monolithic. It's got a core experience. If all of us go download that app, we're going to have the same experience. Now, there are a lot of knobs and bells and whistles where we can turn things off and restrict things and try to give you some control over what people can do. But with app policies, we're really changing the game because you are in total control of that end user experience. And so I like to show an example of what is our typical global policy like we have today, what has traditionally been targeted at your information worker type profile. And in this experience, I get to decide what apps my users have access to and what gets pinned in the navigation. So you see these things going from activity teams, shifts, chat, calling, etc. And when we go into the desktop part of the demo, you'll see that this navigation on the left corresponds to what I've set up as that policy here. So that's kind of in the sweet spot of where Teams is today. But now with these Firstline worker capabilities, we can go in and actually focus this down into just these 4 apps as a starting point. And what's powerful is even with things like shifts, which we just launched a month ago, you may have other apps that you need your workers to have access to. So I'll use an example, say, of an inventory specialist. And maybe the inventory specialist, there's a special inventory bot that you've created that you want to give them access to. So you're able to do that, publish that into the App Store, and then come into the experience and show them that app. Now, if you happen to use, let's just take an example. Maybe you're using Kronos, which is a world-leading workforce management product, and maybe you do your scheduling in Kronos. And so now, we can even allow you to take away the shifts that we've created and just use Kronos in there. You can order it the way you want. And now bring this third-party app for workforce management right into the worker's experience on Teams. So this is a very, very powerful capability that we're giving you. And I will move over briefly to the desktop to kind of walk through a few things there. But I wanted to show you app policies because it'll be appearing very soon. And this really takes away a lot of friction as we start to now move into, pilots and getting you trying these features out. With app policies, you can really tune, a set of users, a store of yours that you want to stand up and try this experience. We're making that easier and easier for you. So that's super powerful. So when we talk about teams, we have four big concepts in teams. So we have the concept of a team. So in this case, in my retail demo, that's the store. Then within a team, we have what we call channels. And channels break down the team into sub-sections, sub-topics. I'll show you like all these different channels that I've created. So some are departmental, some are based on interests, some are based on really common capabilities. So like I like to kind of pick on announcements or onboarding. It's like really common type of scenarios that everyone faces. And so channels are a really important way to scope the content that the user would want to be expecting to see when they come into that channel. So we'll use onboarding as an example. So I talked about teams, talked about channels, and then we have within channels what we call tabs, which are these things that sit up on top here. And we always start with conversations because we're communications first. We always filter. We talked about content management, access to documents. We always filter the documents that have been shared within a conversation into files so they're easy to go find. So here in the onboarding channel, I would expect to see things like an employee handbook or onboarding checklist or what's our brand about. That would be kind of very standard content. Now, I may take something like the employee handbook and actually pin the actual content into a tab because it's that important and I want its location to be that predictable to employees. So that's kind of a cool way to really give prominent content a solid space in the experience. Then like do at Microsoft, Satya, our CEO, does a monthly Q&A broadcast to employees. And somewhere around 20% of employees watch that live, and the rest of the people watch it recorded. And those are recorded automatically in the Microsoft Stream, which is another part of Office 365. And the cool thing about Stream, and you see this here as an example in the demo, is a similar kind of monthly Q&A with the CEO, where I can then take that piece of content and pin it, as a tab. Now, the cool thing about Stream is that I can actually search the transcript. So in this particular video, they talk about a new cash bonus that they're creating for employees. And so I can search, if I just heard about it from a friend of mine, I can come here and search and actually jump right to that section within the video where they're talking about the cash bonus. And so then what I love about Teams is it's not just about the fact that I have easy access to this content, but now this content can become a conversation. And we call these tab conversations. So now I've watched this video, and within my team, I can start having a conversation about it. And so you can see how some people are reacting to it, giving their opinions about it, making statements. And then those same conversations exist right within the conversation surface. So that same conversation is happening right here. So the fact that content and the conversation flow together, is really important. And, you can happen the same way, even like, taking the employee handbook as an example. You can start a conversation talking about that. So this really helps enhance the community aspects. And all of these things that I'm showing you are also accessible on your phone. I mentioned shift management as a new feature, so I'll just flip over there and kind of give you a sense of the schedule and the team. Now with shift management, we have this native shift management experience that we launched last month, and that's in Teams as you see it here. We have ways of you dividing your team up into different roles. So in this retail example, you'll have managers, cashiers, sales associates, etc. You can see that all of the employees have given me their availability. So like if I take Alex here, Sunday he's showing 12 to 5, but on Tuesday he's available all day. So this gives you a way for the employees to communicate to you as a store manager when you're setting the schedule, what their availability is. And so then I go and create the schedule, and I have, in this example, opening shifts, closing shifts. I've got a swing shift here, or here in the middle. I can double click on a shift. I can change attributes like start and end time. I can give things different colors, like if Grady has to leave early on this day, I can put this note in there so that I know, why this is ending a little bit earlier than normal. And so that's a shift note and a way to communicate just to Grady and or me. I'm Ben in this demo. And then we have these day notes. The day notes are accessible to everyone working that day. So they talk about what is happening in the store, what our goals are, what our traffic, what sales goals, whatever we want to communicate down to the employees. So that can all happen, right here. And this has a very Excel-like feel, copy paste kind of feel to it. It's easy to use for about 60% of the customers I talk to. They're still using Excel or paper for the schedules. So if you fall in that category, this will be a game changer for you immediately. Now, if you're using, like I showed in the previous part around app policies, another third-party workforce management product like a Kronos or a JDA, both of those are very big in retail. We are shipping our API into shifts built on the Graph API in a couple weeks. And then third parties, yourself, your SI partner, whoever you work with, can now connect on any other system you may be using for scheduling into Teams through the API, and then it will light that experience up into this native Shifts app that I'm showing you right here. So that extensibility is a very critical piece of extensibility for us because the whole space of workforce management is very complicated. So bringing that all together, into Teams is important. We also have, and I'll show this to you on mobile as well, because we're sitting on the Azure Bot framework, you can also use bots to do some of those workforce management capabilities in the chat experience. So I'll go there last before we jump to mobile, which is chat. So we talked about our 4 concepts in Teams: the team, the channel, tabs, and then finally chat. And chat is a service where people really live within Teams, and we've really amped up the richness of that. I'm going to spend more time on chat, on mobile. But what is nice about Teams is no matter where I go, no matter where I'm accessing Teams, whether it's through the web, through the desktop, through mobile, on iOS, Android, any browser, like all of that complexity that happens on the device itself, we make Teams work for you. So those conversations, those chats are always available, always in sync, always up to date, so you can access it from anywhere. So I am going to shift over to my phone. I need to do one thing so that I can share the phone on my screen. Bill, if there is a question you want to bring up, this is a good time. Otherwise, I'll keep
The question so far is, what is the task apps you had? Is this linked to tasks in Outlook?
So they weren't supposed to look at that, but they did. So I'll show you that on mobile. So Tasks is an app that we're in the process of building right now within Teams. I'll give you a little taste of that on mobile. Um, I won't say that they're necessarily connected to Outlook yet, just because we're building this to work very natively within Teams. I do believe, as we do in all things within Office, within Microsoft, we want to use common constructs, experiences, entities, and so yes, over time you'll see that things that we do in our task surface would appear in other places within Office 365, like Outlook. So I'm gonna
And the
flip over.
notifications related to tasks do come into email. It's just, are they really? I
Yes.
think the question is, do the tasks end up into the tasks area in Outlook? And the answer to that is not yet, but we hope to do something like that.
Yeah,
The
fully
other,
expect that to be true.
the other questions are, when are these apps going to be rolled out? So to differentiate what's in the product today and what's coming. And then finally, the question is, how did Alex send urgent in his chat? I can't see this in mine.
Okay. We will cover all of that as we go into the mobile experience. So, everything I'm showing you except tasks, that is the one big one that is truly future. You can view these as essentially released. Now we do, if you take the example of say the urgent, that's moving through our release rings as we call them, and they go from 0 to 4. And when something's in ring 4, it's everyone in the world gets it. But even in ring 4, we'll usually do some percentage, every couple of days into ring 4 as we roll out a feature. So something like urgent is going through the rings right now. If you don't see it right now, it's within a month time frame. You will see it. Everything you'll see, app policies, the things like urgent. I'm going to show you a few more kind of chat-based features that we've been working on. The API, although you don't necessarily see that, that's coming out in a couple weeks. But the only thing I would put on the side is tasks. Everything else you should view as release, and if it's not in your ring, it's coming very, very soon as we roll it out. So what I thought I would do to just kind of paint the picture for you of the power you have with Teams is start with what I would characterize as our simplest experience, which is having a chat-only version of Teams. And this lines up very well if you happen to have consumer-based tools that are being used by your Firstline employees. What I mean by that is like a WhatsApp type tool, some shadow IT kind of tool that they're using to communicate because they need to connect. We're bringing that into Teams and allowing you through those app policies I show you to create this very simple version of Teams. And so, and I encourage all of my customers who are going into pilots to start here. Start by creating your teams, getting them the chat app, figure out how you want your channel, and give them sort of a really good first experience where they can chat with each other. Now, we talked about, and I'll come into a whole bunch of things here. We'll talk about so one aspect is the app policies allowing you to simplify the experience, but then there's what is happening inside of that chat experience that I think is every bit as important, if not more important, to getting your workers to fully embrace this experience. Because they come from a world where they've used these consumer tools and they get used to certain capabilities and features. And so we've done a lot of work to sort of deepen the experience within the chat surface, like the urgent that you see that Alex sent right there. Now, when we go into message priority, you'll see now that we have not just important but urgent, and the difference is urgent will send you a notification every 2 minutes for 20 minutes. So this is a really important feature in retail, in hotels, travel. uh, places where there can be security concerns. This is a way to get all employees and make sure that they see that post. And that feature can be done in the chat service. Here I'm in a group chat, what I call the on-shift crew. If that's the only people I want to hit with this, I can hit them there. I could also post it in a channel. Um, so like the general channel of a team is 100% of the members of that team. So if it's something I needed 100% of the employees to get, I could go post that message there. And it could also be on a one-to-one chat. So, when we create these features, they're very useful, and you can tune how broadly, it gets used by where you apply it. So the urgent thing is really, really critical. Then let me go up one sec. Actually, let me just, while I'm doing this, I'll show sharing location is another feature we've added. So being able to do that is important. You see the microphone in the lower right corner. If I hold that down, I can record an audio message. And so if I don't even have time to type things, I can just hold this down, say what I need to say, and then send that off. We always are moving fast within the Firstline space, so we want to take all friction out for communications. That's a great example. I know a store manager who does a 2-minute, like kind of an inspirational audio clip of the day, and he posts that in a channel so that if you're in the closing crew, and you come in, these channel conversations are persistent chat. They can go right in there and listen to that day's audio message. So that's another new capability. You'll see, you probably saw some there, praise. So praise is another employee engagement capability. So this is recognizing another employee. In this case, it's who can I pick on? Let's pick Pradeep. And, I can just say, hey, great job yesterday, and send this praise off. So that then allows, me to recognize someone in front of the other employees. So, just another nice feature, kind of giving that added engagement. We showed a photo image annotation. I'll show that in just a second. What else can I show you? Oh, all of the different reaction types. You may have seen this on web as well. So not just liking a post, but having the full range of reactions. If I go down and say, if I send a message like, let's see, let's clean the break room, I can send that message off, and then when I go in there, I have read receipts. So these read receipts not only are one-on-one read receipts, but they are also in a group chat. So this is my on-shift crew. This on-shift crew can be a dynamic team that is connected to whether they're working or not. So this team could, theoretically, the membership of it changed dynamically based on whether they were on shift or not. And then I can send that to everyone in that group. I can react to those posts with the full range reactions, but I can also see who's read it and who's not. And so as people read it, I get those lists of names there. And then all of these events are auditable events in their conversation stream. And that can be really, really, powerful for you if you need to prove out that something actually, did in fact happen. If I use examples, if you can see examples I've done in the past around, sorry, I went to, hang on, like here, image annotation. So taking a picture of a document and writing on it, very popular communication vehicle in the Firstline space. And then the big difference between us and our competitors is when You use your phone and take these pictures. We don't actually store those images on the phone itself. And that's a big compliance hole with some of the consumer tools, that we don't do. We store it in your O365. So that's kind of your chat experience. And then once you have your team chatting, and that's kind of your baseline, I'm going to go here into the setting. You would normally set this through a policy. I now am turning channels on into the experience. And this experience you're seeing here where channels and chats are combined in one surface, this is another one of our key Firstline features because we're really trying to optimize for a Firstline worker who's the member of a single team. Now, they can be a member of many teams, but in general, they work on one team. So even if they say they're working in multiple stores, when they're working that day, they're typically on one team. So we really wanted to optimize the experience for that. And so I can go look into the onboarding channel just like we were on the web experience. I'm having this tab conversation about that monthly Q&A. Tabs live in this more location up here. I can go right into that same monthly Q&A, right on mobile that I was showing you before on the web. So having that content available really easily. Here's the file filtering of what's happening in the conversation. Here's the employee handbook as a tab. So all of those things that I showed you on desktop are equally accessible, on the in the mobile app. And so then those conversations that you're having, you can have right there as well. Here's a channel called Announcements. So Announcements is another coming feature. We have built out what we call Company Communicator, which is a way to package up an announcement and then push it down, into either a channel or a set of employees. There's some limited targeting capabilities there. And so, this is a great way to communicate more kind of push. You think about in a retail environment, what was print and post, in the break room, being able to construct those announcements and send them down, and then people can read right on their phone. That's a really important feature as well. So we have the team being optimized for a singular team, this store. We have the channels, and then we have the chats, and then I showed you the tabs. So we've showed you those 4 core Teams concepts working here in mobile in a very easy-to-use experience. So now, again, we go back to our app policies, and let's say we now are going to add shifts and tasks. So now, now we're sort of growing up our workforce into added capabilities. And so I can now see my schedule right here, on the phone. And within shifts, we do have the ability to do time and attendance as well. So if I want to use the phone, for clocking in and clocking out shifts or breaks, I can do that right here on the phone. That's an optional feature. It's also optional to turn on geolocation, where you'll capture their their GPS coordinates of when they clocked in and out, and see if they were actually on site at work. Another common question I get from retailers, so I'm sharing that. In addition to having my schedule, so you can see like my schedule today on the 21st. Oh, let me go back in there. You can see those shift notes that I was talking about, communicating what our goals are for this day. You'll see in here I have what we call an activity, which is a subsection of a shift. So I've got this training from 9:30 to 11:30, so I can have that appear right within this shift. And then from here in the upper right corner, you'll see the little clock with the people on it. By pressing that, I can see all of the people working in the store that day by their different roles. Firstline workers do like this because they like to know who they'll see when they go to work. And then if I look at in the, let's say in the future, maybe it's a Tuesday, maybe I need to swap my shift for some reason. I can go off into the swap shift experience. I can go February 26th, so I'm going to go see who's available on the 26th. As it turns out, Adele is available. She's my closing manager. I'm the opening manager. Maybe I have that morning doctor's appointment. And so, I'd love to just swap with her and I'll close that day. And so I can easily discover who's available, what time, figure out what works for me, send that off. In this case, we'll wait for Adele to say, yes, I can do it. If the person you're swapping with okays it, then it goes to the manager for final approval. This scenario I'm showing you right here is what has pushed most of these first-line workers to use consumer tools if you're not giving them a tool like this, because this is a very stressful moment for the first-line worker when they need to, they may get sick, they have to swap their shift, something's come up. So having this all within the experience, and in this case, I don't need to know Adele's phone number or email address. We're just all connected on Teams, and I can make that a very simple experience. Another big trend is around open shifts. So open shifts are uncovered shifts that don't. You can share those out to the team, and then people can, kind of bottoms up, pick up extra shifts. So this is, it's really a big trend. I know one retail customer that only does open shifts. They don't actually create any specific schedule. They just create the open shifts to correspond to the capacity of employees they need that day, and then all the employees just go and pick up the shifts they want and build their own schedule. So that's the most extreme example of this, but definitely, in a environment where you have a lot of millennials in your workforce, very common because they feel very empowered and in control of their schedule. So all of these requests, time off, open shifts, swapping shifts, offering a shift up to a few people that you can't work, having all of that native within the experience is very convenient for this first-line worker. And when you talk to them after they move to this capability, the most common way they'll describe it is it's life-changing for them because they're no longer, as stressed out when changes need to happen. They're not having to drive into the store and take a picture of the wall and go to WhatsApp and share it to know when they're working, and then the schedule's always current. So as changes happen throughout the week, they can actually see who they are going to work with, what's actually the current plan of record, and that's reflected right on their phone. And so all of that is really, really important for this worker. Then the last thing I'll show, let's see, is I'll give you a small glimpse into tasks. I do believe that tasks is kind of the final big feature we need to deliver to really be totally end-to-end on the first-line worker experience. I've been working with customers and these workers for the last 3 years, and when we talk about that first-line worker, it comes in terms of when are they working, where are they working, and what do they need to do. So when they're working and where they're working gets covered in the schedule management shifts capability. And then tasks really brings in the what they need to do. So bringing those together, you now are fully empowered to totally manage this workforce. And I like to show examples like, think of like e-learning type scenarios. So here, I've just created this task called Read the Employee Handbook, and then being able to attach that piece of content right into the task. And that could be a video that they need to watch, training video. And sometimes I have, read it, and then I'll have a separate task that says, agree to the terms of the employee handbook. as a discrete task so that I can really track, an action they've taken that they agree with that. So this is a really powerful capability that's coming soon. We're looking at April for customer like TAP program, our technology adoption program, through April, get that feedback, and then launch this around May. So this is coming soon. And, what'll be nice is then between the schedule information and knowing when people work and the task capability and the way that the tasks will be able to be targeted, I can start to send targeted tasks to the employees working right now in a specific store or a specific region, with a specific role. So this becomes a really powerful tool for you. So I can see not only my task, but everything going on across the team, if I want. And I really think this is going to be a game changer for us. So the nice thing about Teams is you can come onto this platform. You can start with that simple chat-only experience. You're in charge. You can add shifts if you want. You can add tasks as it comes. You can add other third-party ISVs. We've got several hundred apps already published into the App Store from some of the biggest names out there, and partners you likely have, and that's already published in the App Store. I'll give you an example, like an ADP for payroll. They've done an absolutely fantastic app in the Teams App Store, and it's something like 60-70% of my customers use the ADP. So having that readily available, and just being able to add that right into the experience is really, really awesome. So we've covered the main constructs of Teams. We've covered the control you have throughout policies, and we've kind of grown the experience of the Firstline worker up, from chat to full-blown. I think if they had all of this experience right here with shifts and tasks, you would see a completely fundamental change in your workforce, in your culture at the Firstline level, and that is what digital transformation really means to us. And now with Teams, yeah.
Great job. Additional question. Would you say tasks are more personal compared to planner? How do these two compare?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the biggest difference is something that I'm not able to show to you today, but I will describe the scenario. And that is, and retail is such a great example. This is actually the task effort is being built with our retail team within Teams. And so it is very, very tuned into the retail way of thinking. And so I use an example like Valentine's Day. And let's say, in our stores, we're going to have a Valentine's Day sale, some promotion. And I may have 500 stores. I might have 1,000 stores. And so corporate is going to design this Valentine's Day promotion, and they're going to figure out all the things that need to happen to launch this promotion. And typically you'll see, a 2-week, 3-week, 4-week run-up to that promotion. And so their corporate is telling you, 3 weeks before, these 25 things need to happen. And then 2 weeks before, these 38 things need to happen. And so they are defining this package, which is all of these tasks, this big task bundle that is the Valentine's Day promotion. And then they can push that out to their 500 or 1,000 stores. So now there's 500 instances of this package out there. And then that store manager or whoever, the owner of that store is, admin type role, will take those tasks and actually assign them to the people in their organization. So it's going from this big bundle now into individual tasks for individual people to get done that week. And so corporate then wants the ability to see, how am I doing across my 500 stores? So how many of them have assigned these tasks this week to people to get it done? And then what percent of those tasks are done? And then roll that up into this global view of how they're doing with this promotion. And then when they see problems, they can tune the communication and say, hey, the store in Miami hasn't started doing this yet. What's going on? And then they can go and contact them. So that sort of scenario is at the core of what we're building. Being able to manage programmatically across hundreds and thousands of locations, and really have this sort of HQ headquarters view of driving these tasks. At an individual, say a manager giving a task to an employee, they're probably more similar, although we are building a lot of targeting that allows you to key off of things like, are they on shift or off shift, or what's their role, where's their geo. There are some things where, again, because they're inside of teams and using teams, we have a lot of that knowledge. So there are some similarities, but there's actually more differences, and very important differences for our customers, which is why we're on the path to build a native solution inside of Teams.
Great. That's all the questions we have, Rich.
All right, I'm going to come back here to slides. So hopefully you got a sense of the power we are putting into Teams for the first-line workers. And what my strongest advice, especially now that these features have shifted, is get pilots going. Pilots of these capabilities are extremely powerful. And I say this, and you may not believe me, but prove me wrong, which is if you go and put this in one of your stores, and your store could have 10 employees, 50 employees, 100 employees. I can virtually guarantee you if they have this for a week or 2 weeks or a month, there is a sparkle in their eye. They're so excited about being this connected with each other, to the company, to the management, to knowing about their schedule. It's an amazingly empowering experience for these workers. And it's actually super easy to get this rolling at a single location. I mean, you have all the power to tune and control and manage, that community. So I encourage all of you to get these pilots going. You can reach me and those of us helping to drive these pilots and this usage with our customers at worker@microsoft.com. We have these webinars, some going nearly every single week. So continue to watch that list and join additional webinars if you want to see more. We also record these sessions and make them available. So if you want to watch it again or share it with a coworker, you're able to do that. And then, as always, please give us your feedback. There's the feedback link for you. We're always trying to improve, get better, and make these webinars more useful for you.
Thank you, Rich. And I think we have a few minutes left, so I'm going to run the Marks and Spencer testimonial video, if you think that's a good way to close out.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Excellent. So thank you, Rich, and everyone stay on. I'm just going to switch over to the video. Thank you all very much. That is the end of our presentation. I'll be sending out a recording and links to additional presentations, so I hope you'll send your colleagues and start pilots. If you're interested in support from the Microsoft Teams engineering organization for a pilot of the features we talked about today, please email worker@microsoft.com. Thank you all.